with your ears,
with
listening.
your ear holes, mouth hole to ear hole, we come to you. We are legit
And woo! I'm Dr. Nicola Dellinger.
And I'm Dr. Katie Rubin. I'm a doctor now.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you anoint yourself every
Thank you.
time.
I think Squeezle anointed me, the dog. She's our guru.
Squeezle.
This is my favorite pose.
Why?
The nervous.
Oh.
Speaking of being anointed, you just got anointed
Just got
right here.
the Saint Squeezle annotations.
What is
That's
that?
different.
What does it mean about you now that you've been anointed?
I think it means my heart is more open.
Okay,
Yes.
that works.
Yeah, she has chosen me. I'm a chosen one.
Instead of booking sessions with either of us, what you guys need to do is just rent my dog and she will anoint thee. So this week we thought we would get together here in Nicola's office and talk about systems of categorization of humans. For example, human design, astrology, things like the enneagram, numerology, all the things where it's like, you have a type and here's your type. Mm-hmm. And we thought we'd look at that because it can be kind of woo, these ideas.
It's very woo.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people have like big feelings about it, and we thought we would collaboratively discuss this whole topic.
Yes.
I have like lots of fun, positive things to say about it, but I would love to hear your thoughts about, and we were just talking before off camera about like, what are the reasons that we know of that people are not big fans of these little structures that put people in categories?
Yep. And I think it's got to do with people don't like to be categorized. Like, we like to think that we're more unique and individual and like, I'm just me. I can't be put into one of 9 or 12 categories. And it's like, well, the ego doesn't like that. Like, actually, there's a lot of patterns in this whole human existence thing. And we've, typically fall pretty solidly in one of those categories.
Oh, yeah.
But I think also people can feel limited. Like, oh, well, if this means that, I'm a Taurus, for example, it's my sun sign. I got more information about my birth time.
What?
Yeah.
I keep trying to do her astrology, and she's like, I don't know the things.
I know. My mom's like, I was in twilight sleep. I wasn't around when you were born. And it's like,
anyway.
Okay. So England, no time on your birth certificate.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
That's part of it.
Some places here don't do the time either.
Right.
I've learned from trying to read all my friends' charts and not being able to. It's a drag.
So, that would be another reason is that, we don't believe in them, or we don't feel like a category sums up all of our internal workings, which I actually would agree with. However, there are patterns and tendencies in all things natural, right? There's fractals and leaves and all sorts of structures that repeat and patterns and tendencies that we have. And so I think people get a little intimidated when they're named, a Taurus or a 4 or human design words.
6'2".
Myers-Briggs. I'm an introvert.
INFP.
Yeah, I'm a driver, extrovert.
Manifester.
Right.
Pony, gorilla lady.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So I think from an ego level, I feel like sometimes it can make us feel like we have something to live up to or something that we're supposed to get away from, because all of these categories have like more positive attributes and negative attributes. And I don't think we like to see ourselves fully. Not everyone is a fan of self-reflection.
What?
If you could believe it, I know. A
What?
lot of us spend a lot of life avoiding our truth.
Come on.
It's true. I know.
No.
I know. You're so happy to delve into all your deepest, darkest shit.
Oh, I
know
love
it's
it.
like,
I mean, ever since I can remember being 8 years old and laying on the floor of my bedroom at the time, born and raised in Miami, Florida, and I would lay on my childhood floor and stare at I had the glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, and I would stare at them and be like, okay, cool, I'm going to figure out all the layers that are on top of who I really am, clear all those off, and then talk to people about unity. I had that thought when I was 8.
Really?
Yes. And I remember when I was 16, I told my 16-year-old boyfriend at the time, who was not the guy to tell, I told him I see myself at podiums talking to people about unity and oneness. That's what I see in my vision. And I see clearing all the layers off my heart that stand in the way of the oneness of me and everyone.
Is that your 16-year-old voice?
Yeah. And he goes, this is a true story. He goes, I just want to eat pizza and drink beer. He said that sentence. Like, who says... That's like a sentence...
And you broke up with him or you stayed with him?
Well... It was all about time. Eventually, I broke up with him. I should have left that day, but I was 16.
Red flags. Yeah, he's cute.
Come on.
I know.
Anyway, so yeah, and so for me, like all these category systems, right? People are always like, all the structures and the systems, don't put them on me. I love them for the following reasons. Because when you can let go in your heart of the idea that these words are actually creating any kind of limitation for you, like Nicola's talking about, and just hold it like, here are some words to describe a possible set of circumstances that are occurring now, so that you have words to describe your experience. Then when we have words that are effective in describing our experience, I find often that is the way to transcend that experience. Mm-hmm. In other words, knowing that I'm an Aquarius, my sun sign is Aquarius. This is a Taurus right here. Squeezel is, we don't know. She's transcended astrology entirely, but
clearly.
It explains why I have certain proclivities and gifts and so on and so forth. And that makes me feel comforted. And it makes me go like, there's a lot of earth signs out there, a lot of Capricorns and Tauruses, like running the world and being very practical and having spreadsheets about stuff. And like, I have to learn to do spreadsheets because I'm so like in the frickin' celestial realms that I have to be reminded that like bathing is a good idea. Be nice to humans. You don't get to just channel light and like change their lives. You have to also like kind of be kind at the grocery store. But see, do you know how helpful it is for me as a whack job to hear whack job words said by a guy I've never met in my horoscope or my human design or whatever that match exactly my experience of being me? It's validating and it's grounding and it gives me a structure to understand myself. But I don't then create those words as limitations in my reality. I can't then say like, well, I'm an Aquarius, so I can't do spreadsheets. I can't be on time. I can't whatever the whatevers are, right? We don't use it as a justification to be a non-functioning human being. We want to look at it as like an explanation of why your inclinations might be in one direction so that you then have an idea of what corrective measures you need to take in other directions. I find that radically helpful.
Yeah. I mean, like we were talking about before, like it's like getting a weather report. It doesn't mean that you're not going to do the thing. It just means you might prepare yourself a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And it's really can be a tool to just understand yourself more. And rather than be in judgment around that, like as a Taurus, change is not easy for me. And so now I just name all the time, change is not easy for me. Ask me in a week and it'll be a different answer. Everyone who's close to me in my world is like knows not to ask me. Like, for example, our art changes in the office every 3 months. And every 3 months I'm like, oh God, I hate this art. I just put this in here. Who did that? And then a week later I'm like, oh, I'm so happy there's a new artist here. Like, so it takes me a minute. But now everybody in my office knows that. Nobody asks me what I think about the art until it's like landed for a little bit.
I like that.
So like it actually is a vehicle for me to express more of my true self because I have this neutral container of like, oh, I'm a Taurus.
Neutral container. That one almost flew right by. She just spit that one out and kept on running. Neutral container. So that's the key right there is if I hold the Aquariusness of my sun sign, which by the way, the sun speaks to the ego's nature. Mm-hmm. If I hold that lightly in a what did you say? A what container?
Neutral.
In a neutral container, then I'm not attached to any of it. I'm just aware of what the tendencies of this organism, this body-mind field that we call Katie Rubin, what its tendencies are in the ego realm. Mm-hmm. Similarly, if you look at, like, let's look at human design, which is a little less, I don't know, it's a little more concrete and specific than astrology. In your human design chart, when you look closely or start to study it or get a reading or whatever, the amount of detail about you that is written in your freaking human design chart will blow your freaking mind. It'll blow your mind. You can't, I've been studying human design for like 10 years, not as in depth as some of my friends, but like I come back to it all the time. And every single time I come back to it, I go, how is there a new layer that human design is naming about myself that I hadn't already read? And the specificity of the degree to which human design can be specific about me helps me ground into reality certain things that, you know, like when you have an idea in the back, way back here, you're like living your life, eating a pizza, taking your dog to the dog park, drinking a beer. And way in the back of your consciousness, you're like, oh, I don't know if like my aunt is the nicest lady. then you look at your human design chart and it's like trouble with relatives and generally won't get along with aunt. Why? And then it tells you why. That's in your freaking human design chart. How can that be possible? Because miracles are real. And then here's another example. This is a better example. One of my favorite things about human design is they talk about, this is not a pitch for human design, by the way. It's just an example I'm giving. But 2 auric fields, the human design system really breaks down specifically the specifics of your aura, your system, and what you're walking into a room with. So if Nicola and I happen to have auric fields that have gates and channels, those are human design terms, that don't match up with each other, we are just not going to be buddies. Clearly, she and I have gates that complete each other's channels, and we like each other, so there's shit that just works with us. But in human design, they teach very clearly that, like, if this is over here and that's over there with 2 people, you're never gonna get along. And that freed me up when I started to study that more closely from blaming myself or another person. Like, sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes it's the gates and channels don't frickin' match, and it's never gonna work. And the harder you try to fix yourself or fix them, you're just wasting time and energy on something that just isn't meant to be a thing you thought it was meant to be. And that frees me from judgment and blame.
Absolutely.
But you have to be willing to receive it as a true thing.
And I'll give you an example from my own life where I didn't choose to receive the information and got heartbroken. I, as a Taurus, I was dating a Scorpio man, and Linda Goodman's Sun Signs is a book from the 70s.
I love
60s.
that book.
It's the only book.
It's thick, red,
paperback
I
novel.
can't believe you read that book.
I love that. It's like my go-to.
Oh my god, mine too.
Yeah.
It's the only one I have.
Why do you need anything else?
You don't.
Linda Goodman, Sun Signs.
So good.
Again, not a plug. We don't work for her. We just love her. Linda, if you're still alive and out there,
we love you.
But they have it like Taurus woman with Scorpio man, and I was like, oh, let me just read this for funsies. And it was like a true Scorpio, he will sting and bite you and leave you to the side of the road. And I was like, and I read it to him, and he was like, that's ridiculous. And that's exactly what he did. Like 3 months later, heartbroken, text breakup, MIA. I'm gonna love you and for the rest of our lives, and then like I'm not gonna return your call. It was bananas, but it was almost to the, and they're brief. They're like, what, 4 paragraphs, something like that.
Yeah.
But it was exactly what it said. But I didn't choose to heed that advice. It seemed kind of crazy at the time to break up with this seemingly good guy because of our star sign, our sun signs. But now I take that shit more seriously. It goes into deeper consideration, kind of like living in the mountains and getting a meteorology report. If it says 10% rain, I bring my rain jacket. When I first moved from Phoenix, I never did. So it's like this, like you can incorporate it in different ways, but don't make yourself wrong if you live your life and then get proven wrong, or the other thing is proven right on the other side.
No, I mean, to me, it's just like, then it becomes like, maybe next time I'll pay attention more. Kind of that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Now, I can hear some people's responses to that. A lot of people's reaction to a story like that is they go, well, isn't that just a self-fulfilling prophecy? Like, you can read words and then sort of create your future, be like, uh-oh, he's gonna fuck me up.
That's why I'm scared of getting future information from psychics.
I know. You've told me this.
Yes.
But meanwhile, I'm psychic all day and with psychics as often as I can. But here's what I would say.
Because I don't want to listen. Sorry, different story.
You don't?
No, I'm scared to like heed the advice. It doesn't make sense to my mind.
Right, sure, right.
But that's kind of what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
Like, I hear what you're saying, but I don't want that to be true, so I'm going to ignore that.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, big time. Yeah, and to in response to the, isn't it just a self-fulfilling prophecy, the thing I would say is, don't take any action. Read the information and just live your life, make no choices, and watch. Don't make any decisions based on it, and just watch. This story is a perfect example of like, she just kept dating, and then this thing happened, and it happened to be the thing that the astrologer said would be the thing. And
I was absolutely like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've read. This book, after having it for 20 years, is garbage. And then it came true anyway, so I didn't feel self-fulfilling because I didn't have that in the back of my mind.
Yeah. So yeah, I think for me also, and switching gears a little bit, and then we can wrap this up, talking about the enneagram, which I talk about a lot in the podcast, which you should be listening to. It's called All the Answers, podcast free, everywhere you get podcasts. You're welcome. On our podcast, we talk about the Enneagram a lot, and it's because the information in the Enneagram, by the way, I highly recommend a book called The Sacred Enneagram by Christopher Hewerts. It's my favorite Enneagram book because it's very spiritually integrated. He's like a super spiritual dude. This guy is so freaking articulate about the tendencies of your type, the gift of your type, the spiritual qualities of your type, how your type will relate to the other types. It's so specific and in-depth that and they say with the Enneagram, you're supposed to pick the number when you're identifying which number is you, the one that makes you cringe the most.
Oh, God.
Which is uncomfortable.
Which is why we don't like these games.
That's right. People like to say, oh, I don't believe it. That's all foo-foo, hoo-hoo bullshit. And it's like, maybe it's a little challenging for your little ego.
Yeah.
You don't like to be challenged.
I want to stay like right here. Yeah. This is who I am. I don't have wings.
Which sounds to me like a 1 hanging out with an 8. And I'm an 8 and I go, let's challenge you. And she goes, there's rules and there's ways and we don't do that. And I'm oversimplifying. And that's not how she is entirely. But I'm just saying, to make a point, when I read about the 8, I mean, nothing has. I mean, for a couple years in a row, I was grieving from my heart all the pain of recognizing my 8-ness. It was very painful. But the thing is, whenever we come up against pain about what's true about ourselves, the purpose of coming up against that pain is not to run from that pain. It's to go into the center of that pain and let it cry itself out until it's complete. And then you have no charge on it anymore.
Right.
And then you become what's called a healthy 8 instead of a scary 8. Because we can really scare people, we 8s.
Well, and that's what I like about the Enneagram is it shows you when you're balanced or unbalanced within that realm. And so for me, it's been like, oh, when I'm out of balance, I tend to get more rigid and look to more rules. And when I'm more balanced or healthy, I'm more fluid with those things. Those things actually become less important. So it helps me understand my tendencies in relationship to myself and how I'm taking care of myself. And so now it's more like a map rather than a box.
That's right. And the box thing is all about how you hold the information. If you hold it like, well, now this is the only thing that's true about me and I have to live in this tiny place, well, then that's kind of on you. But if you hold it like, that does tend to be true, I wonder what other information is inside the system to teach me how to hold this differently. Yeah. What are the tools available to the 8? It's not just now you're stuck forever and this is how you are and you're fucked because of it. It's like, this is who you are and here's some tools for how to navigate that in the world.
And when you're feeling this way, maybe try this instead of that.
100%. And then if we're going back to human design, they would say there are certain things that, like, no matter how many times you try them, they just won't work for you because I'm an 8 and not a 1. So it's never going to work for me to be XYZ, but it's always going to work for me to have room for ABC because I am the animal I am.
Yeah. So use these tools along your path of self-acceptance rather than more criticism, judgment, and like, oh, I don't like that. It's more like, okay, if I'm really reflective, I see that sometimes I can do that. Or maybe there's some pieces in there that don't feel like they're as much of a fit for you, but I would really challenge you to really look at that before you just kind of brush it off.
100%. Well, I think we solved all the world's problems today.
All the answers.
We have all the answers. And before we leave you, we're going to plug our various things we have going on.
Yeah, I've got a few retreats coming up. Always work with people online or in person. And so check it out, drnicola.com.
That's where they're going to find you. How do you spell all that?
DOCTORNICOLA.com.
Boom! As for moi, I have a class called The Big Vision of Your Life. And you have to say it that way when you say it.
The big vision of your life!
It's starting August 1st online. It'll be a 7-week class. We'll do energy healing and consciousness activations each week we're going to name what we think the big vision of our life is, and then we're going to bring the light to that idea in our hearts, and we're going to explode everything that isn't actually what the aligned big vision of our life is, and we're going to get clear about what needs to go and what's true, and we're going to take a lot of notes, and we're going to make action steps, and it's going to be freaking cool.
Sounds amazing.
Thank you.
I think I want in on that.
Okay. Yeah. The big vision of your life! And it starts August 1st. Details below or next to or up from this video somewhere. Check it out. And there was one other thing. Oh, my writing class, channeled writing. It's called Writing in Alignment. We start again. That rotates all the time, July 21st and 22nd. I'll include some details about it, yes?
And we're starting a monthly healing circle on the full moon. So we'll start in September.
Sexy. That's going to be like a really cool integration of like IFS, Integrated Family Systems work, which is the parts work where we integrate the parts of ourselves that didn't get grown up inside of us.
Yep, heart wisdom.
Heart wisdom blended with divine light. Chapow! From this bitch. So check out our respective websites for that intel, and we'll keep you in the loop. We love you.
Bye.